Hi, my name is Ann Sermons Gillis, and I'm on the National Board of the Theosophical Order of Service. And today we're here to interview one of our loyal members. And this is what this interview is about, and that is finding out about the lives of our members. We often hear these people lecture or we see them in a conference, but we don't know the backstory. So we're here today to get the backstory of Michele Sender. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you, Anne. Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm really looking forward to this, but it's interesting how you said that it's about people who give lectures or things like that. And I think most people, if they know me either from the kitchen at Alcott
True.
or from managing the guest houses here at Crotona. So yeah, there's different ways in that we do our theosophical work.
There is, I think, I have actually seen you do several lectures. I mean, when you came to Houston, to the Houston Lodge, I believe you were doing lectures. Yeah, because I remember, specifically something that I've told you something that you said from that lecture. So yeah, you are an all around theosophist in every area that you could, you could be in. So
Thank
you're a
you.
great person to get to know. And when you started out, where were you born?
I was born in Chicago in 1962, and then moved out to the suburbs and spent probably through college in the Chicago area, and then moved out to California, and then moved back, and then eventually moved to the grounds of the national headquarters in Wheaton. And from Wheaton,
And how long were you there in Wheaton at the
in
national
Wheaton, I was
headquarters?
there for about 10 years.
Wow, okay.
Yes, 10 years. And then moved to Crotona in 2016. And we've been here ever since.
Okay. Well, will you tell us a little bit about Crotona since you're
Oh,
living there?
yes. Yeah, Crotona is this amazing place. Pablo really, my husband, was really the like impetus or the stronghold to let's get here. He had been here, he lived in Adyar, and he felt like although Wheaton is this I would say energetic, um, uh, successful in getting things done area or institution. Moving out here to Crotona, since it is more of a retreat center than it is where the national headquarters has all the business part of the National Theosophical Society. So Crotona is a spiritual retreat center where we have classes, we have programs throughout the year from October to May, and we have probably maybe 30 to 35 residents now that live here, and we give our time and energy to keeping Crotona running, whether it's working with programs, working on the grounds, working with the housing to get people here, and things like that.
You were telling me earlier about a retreat that you just have. Could you just mention that for a second, just to give people an idea of the kinds of
Right.
programming you have?
Right, right. I think what in my view, what I see Crotona as is a place to come and do like deep study. Not that the classes are any deeper than anywhere else, but you're here on the grounds. You're staying here. It's we have meditations in the morning, and when we have a week-long program, we have sessions that we go through. The idea is with this one was to foster community within the group that comes, and then to take number one, the knowledge, number two, the wisdom gained just with interactions with one another, the meditation practice in a place that the energy or the thought forms are here for meditation, for study, and for service. So to do that, this year's members intensive was on Radha Bernier's book, Human Regeneration. So it was about taking our work and kind of creating the space for transformation. And then
I'm thinking with all the old, most of us are elders, except not you, but I mean that we in the Theosophical Society, we need some rejuvenation.
right, definitely.
Oh,
Well, I think as far as that goes, as we drop those things off, those extra, things that no longer serve our work, we become more energized. At least that's what I found in the last few years, as that, okay, I don't need that anymore. That's not serving me. I feel like I have been revitalized, or a regeneration.
oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Well, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and take you back now. Were you raised in any kind of religion?
I was raised Catholic, um, just general Catholic. We were supposed to, I heard the story, we were supposed to go to the local Catholic school, for school, but they didn't have a PE or a sports program. And so my parents thought that was important. So we just went to the public school. But I was raised with going to church. I remember I loved the ritual. But I think this may sound funny, but what sticks out most in me is our house was on the road that everyone would have to go to leave church and go to their homes. So my dad didn't go to church, so we would come home and there would be those little white powder donuts waiting for us. And then every now and then, one of their friends or our neighbors would pop in. And so I remember that community on Sundays, and it was nice. It was something that was nice to look forward to.
Yes. Well, seeing that you're here now with me and you're a Theosophist, then there must have been something that made you move away from that or expand that. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about that
Yeah,
breakthrough, breakdown?
right, right. When I was at Alcott, I was the information person, and so when you would come in, um, I would give the tour of the place, and I can't tell you how many recovering Catholics would come in and were really interested about theosophy. So it really got me started on thinking about why I left. One, I went away to college and didn't have, any reason to go to church. I didn't find any reason. But I think my sister got married in the church we grew up in, and we had to go to a couple services before that. And we were in one, and the priest got up and he talked about giving money, and that if we didn't dig a little deeper into our pockets, then I don't know if he said God or Jesus was going to turn off the lights. Like we weren't paying our electric bill, so the lights were going to go off. And that just did not sit with me well. And so, since I was older then and had a choice and it was easy, I just stopped going to church. But I will tell you, to redeem, for a little redemption here, when the Dalai Lama came to visit uh, in Wheaton, when he had the two talks there, he had a recording, and I listened to the recording to transcribe it. So I listened to it a bunch of times, and in it, he really talked about about finding, like, I thought of it almost as the DNA. What DNA do I have? Although there's many things I love about Eastern religions and Eastern thought, that it caused me to go back to Catholicism and really look at it deeper. And so we did a series of talks on esoteric Christianity. And I did one on the book of Job, because I was so interested in, there's got to be something more. And the Dalai Lama kind of was the impetus for me to find something deeper.
So how did you, so you started working at Olcott, which is in Wheaton, that's our national campus. So how did you find that? Did you find it through you got a job there and then you found Theosophy, or did you find Theosophy then and then decide to work there? How did that happen?
Actually, I started with the co-Masons that met there, many of whom were Theosophists, but many of whom weren't. So, and actually, I just followed a friend of mine who found the group and said, "Hey, Michelle, you'll really love this stuff." And so I was like, "Well, okay, I'll join." So I joined, and so I went there, joined in 2005, and I think I moved to the grounds in 2006. So for about 3 or 4 months, I drove to the campus, walked up to the auditorium, did my thing, walked back down, got in the car, and left. And I thought one time, I bet there are a lot of people who drive past this place and don't know anything about it. So thank goodness the internet was available, and I did a Googling, and I was just like, oh, this feels so comfortable. It feels home. And when I was doing the information stuff and giving the tours, those were the two things that I heard most. One, that they were recovering Catholics, and two, that they felt when they found Theosophy, they felt like coming home again.
So
So
so that's how you felt? It was like you were coming.
yes, so the same way. So I loved the co-Masonic work, the ritual work that I did, and then moved to the grounds in 2006 and started working there. And as I studied Theosophy more, the between the ritual, to me it was like a moving teachings. As I moved, it created more space, more silence for me for the teachings that I was studying at the time to find, some ground inside of me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Theosophical Order of Service, of course, our cornerstone is service. Have you participated in any TOS projects? And if not, you can tell us a little bit about what service means to you and what you have done in service.
Yeah. When I started at Wheaton in working there, like I said, I gave tours, so I really shared the study, meditation, and service, and then I would expand on each of those. But at that time, I was working full time. I had 3 kids at home who were junior high and high school age, and yeah, just that was enough. So I really felt that I didn't have time for service. I didn't have time to go feed the home, to feed the hungry, or work with the homeless. And I really felt that that my service was to be the best mom that I could be at that time. I used to joke, I can either feed my kids or I can feed the homeless, but I couldn't do both. So as things have gotten on in years, that's 15 years ago. My kids are more self-sufficient now, and I have more time. I'm no longer working full time. My service, I should answer your question. I'm sorry. I don't think we did go feed the homeless once. That was through the TOS. I did a few projects with them, but never gave fully to the Theosophical, gave my time and energy fully to the Theosophical Order of Service. But and here at Crotona, that's really my daily work is in service to humanity. So it really kind of focuses or concentrates my work towards humanity. I think sometimes our best service for humanity is to work on this human regeneration, this transformation, this burning off of our skandhas, this sitting with the discomfort of our everyday life. That in itself is service. If I meditate each day, not only for my salvation, but for the salvation of all, then that's in service. So there's some people who can do grand acts of service, and I've seen it through the TOS, the stuff that they do. And then I think that we should lend our time and energy to whenever we can. But I also think by us being mindful, being aware, being present, our study, our meditation, all in service to humanity, not in me getting things, me doing this, then that also can be our service.
So moving our thing from our sort of grabbing mentality to the heart mentality, from me to we, is what you see as service. Well, I think that maybe the career, you said that you work part-time. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you do with FOHA Productions?
Yes. So I stopped working at Alcott, and I have one of those brains that, which I think is very similar to yours, because I saw your website with all the things that you've done. You said you're, in the TOS, and you're doing, these recordings and things like that. My brain doesn't shut off. So I'm constantly coming up with these ideas that I have. And Quest Books was closing down. They were going to close down TPH at the time. And so I said to Pablo, he had just did an intensive class for the European school and was thinking about writing a book about it. And so my energy, my ambition, and my overconfidence said, could do a publishing company. I could publish your books. And so we kind of talked about it and thought that this would be a good stream of income for retirement. And so I decided, yeah, let's give it a go, and we'll start a publishing company and publish Pablo's books. And then the other thing was we wanted to publishing. There's no money in publishing. And now that I know the ins and outs of it, but since we don't have any overhead, we can publish classic theosophy, or some of the out of print books, or things that need to be updated that a company can't publish because it's not going to make a lot of money. So that was one of our goals, or our aims, was to publish Pablo's books, to publish some classic theosophy, to publish some in modern language, to take some of the old texts that just don't make sense because the sentences are so long, or they're using terms that we don't regularly understand or regularly use. So to have a series of in modern language. So those were just some of the ideas that we had with ideas to give back to theosophy what we gained out of it.
Thank you. Well, I know of two books you've published. The name of Pablo's book is what?
Evolution of the Higher Consciousness.
Evolution of the Higher Consciousness, that you published, and also Sue's book that you published,
Realizing the Self Within.
Sue Prescott, yes. And do you have anything, and you have something coming up too?
Yes, we have a book, and I apologize to Carolyn Whalen. I took it down to show somebody the other day, but we have a book on art. She painted some inspired art based on the Secret Doctrine and some of those. It's a coffee table book, so we have that. And then we are waiting for the printers to print Pablo's new book, which is Approaching the Secret Doctrine. It's teachings and practical application. So I'm really excited about this book because I think people are just going to love it, because he in the first part, he talks about the teachings. And then in the second part, he talks about how to study the Secret Doctrine. And the third part is full of, and I don't even know how many, but full of meditations and exercises and thought games, not thought games, but thought processes to get us to use the Secret Doctrine as a path in our life, as a path to our enrichment.
Well, yes, if people haven't picked up on it by now, then Michelle and Pablo Sender are married. And so
Yeah.
that's she's talking about her husband, Pablo Sender, who many theosophists know, and new people may not know about him, but he will come up. You will hear about him.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't go too far without finding him.
If you were to look at the principles of theosophy, what principles or what aspect of theosophy do you think has most influenced your life?
Hmm. I think I feel like my personality is very duty bound. Um, if you were to ask me to do a favor, I would feel compelled to help you as much as I can, no matter what. Um, and so I think the ideas and the writings that speak to the path of the the occult path in theosophy, because I know occult means different to different people, but in the theosophical teachings, in the theosophical literature, this path that takes us from Annie Besant talks about it in her book In the Outer Court. So at the top of the mountain, there's this area that is our goal. There's the outer court, there's the inner court, and then there's the inner sanctorium, or the Holy of Holies. So we are those people, humanity as a whole, that is moving around the mountain to get to that place. That is our goal in evolution. So we can, and then I describe it three different ways. I describe it as the stop and smell the roses. So that's just average, that we do at some point in our life, that we start walking around and we're like, oh, this is a pleasant lifetime. I'm going to stop right here and just hang out. Okay, I'll get back on the path and start again. And then there's the well-worn path. And this is the path that has been laid down by anybody who follows any specific religion, any philosophy, any service that they're doing. However, they're fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. They're laying down a well-worn path for these stop and smell the roses people to follow on. And then there's the occult path. And the occult path to me is, or in the readings, is the straight up the mountain, cutting your own path. And that's the one that those are the teachings that speak to me, the difficulties, the clearing of the path yourself, the feeling of loneliness, of breaking through, and then finding this little clearing where there's people there to help or to be in communion with, and then you hop back on and start up the mountain. So the teachings that speak to the treading of the path in theosophy is what I enjoy reading, So
Thank you. Yes, that's like the guiding light for your life. If you
yeah,
look at that and if you fall down a little bit and stumble, you think, I'm not alone. Other people have stumbled too, and then you get help. And we are sent. There's all kinds of help. Even our fellow theosophists tend to show up at the right time, saying the right thing.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that for me, it gives me context for the difficulties in my life, because my brain tends to go to, oh, I'm doing it wrong. So when I have a difficulty come up, I think, oh, I must be wrong. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. And what these teachings do is kind of normalize that, I shouldn't, it's okay. It's okay that I don't have these visible signs of success that we see all over Facebook, that we see, on Instagram, that I'm like, why don't I have that? Why I did everything that I should. And I think, yeah, I know, and I feel very comfortable that those teachings kind of are one of those things that say, hey, no, this is okay. This is the way it is. There will be help, but there are difficulties. And so it makes me It's something that I can kind of hijack and redirect my brain into thinking that I'm okay. You know, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right things. I'm not doing it wrong.
Yes, and so if we are on somewhat of a silent and secret path, we're probably not going to be out there displayed across humanity. We're going to be less visible.
Right.
And
Right.
I remember Yogananda was talking to one of his students who was brilliant. And he was asked one time why he didn't really sponsor this person, why he didn't support him, why he didn't promote him more. And he said, I didn't want him to have to live the life that I lived. He said, I never have a moment alone. I
Right.
always have people expecting things of me. I love my life, but I really didn't want to create it so that someone else had to have it. It is not the easiest path to be out there in front all the time.
Right, right. No, absolutely. And one of the things that I really that really helped me was when I keep in my mind that can I be small, silent, and in the back of the line? You know, we know that if we're in the front of the line, we're given accolades, we're given help, we're being held up, we can pretty much do anything. But can I keep that same motion of being invincible if in order to do my work and do it from the back of the line, smaller than everybody else and silenced. And so when I worked on that and tried to change my worldview to that mode of thinking, it really helped. Yeah, it really took away a lot of that extra things that were sucking energy from my soul, because I no longer had to worry about that. I no longer had to think about that. I just had to figure out how to be comfortable where I was at the time that I was.
Well, yes, yes. And that reminds me, I've told you this before, but I heard you lecture and you talked about a practice that you were doing. And it seems like you come up with a lot of pragmatism, a lot of practices that help move you more into the present, into yourself, and help you navigate this crazy world. And this was, you said that when you wanted to do something, whether you wanted to eat or whether you wanted to buy something, that instead of just immediately doing it, do you remember this? That you
Yeah.
said you would hold back. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? It was very profound for me.
Yeah. One of my uh, aha moments has been I feel like my family, my kids and myself come from the warrior clan. So when I can put things in the framework of discipline, my body can follow it much easier. So in that way, if I can discipline myself where I'm presented with a whole piece of cake and I just eat part of it, then I don't create the energy or the pathway that wants to eat the whole piece of cake. I can create the space or create the container that I can work from, a place of lack or a place of that's okay, I don't need more. If I read a book, instead of finishing the chapter, I stop right before the climax, or when we're watching TV, a lot of times we'll turn it off right before the person's falling from a cliff, and we'll stop it. And it's all just to be able to sit in that unknown, to be able to sit in that place where I don't know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen after I finish a piece of cake. I'm going to feel satiated. I'm going to feel full. I'm going to feel happy. But can I eat a piece of cake and sit there and say, that was really good. I would love to have more, but do I need more? So for me, it was all like and I know there's a better word for it, but a mind game into getting my mind to wrap around just not taking all that I need. Is that am I remembering the same
Well,
story?
that's one aspect of it. The other thing is that you said that if you were getting ready to do something, that you would hold and just wait so it wouldn't be so impulsive,
Right.
that you could take a few seconds or a minute or something so that you could train yourself not to be grasping so much, which is very similar to what you said. But both of those are amazing practices. And I would do it. Sit down hungry instead of just going into the meal, is to hold it for just a minute and then eat.
Right. I think you mentioning the impulse it is a really good practice because I noticed that I am very impulsive. And so that sort of practice is more of a like I have to do that because otherwise I just move forward at lightning speed before my brain even has time to catch up about what I'm doing. So yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm going to again switch gears a little bit, and HPV. And for those of you that don't know anything about theosophy, that's Helena Blavatsky, and she is one of the founders of the Theosophical Society. She said that theosophy is altruism, and I wondered if you agree with that.
And I just want to clarify, did you say altruism, right?
Yeah, altruism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, because I love that. That is my new thing. I gave a talk and I used there's a part in Pablo's new book where he wrote a chapter. We didn't know where to put it, and so I had to read it over quite a few times. So we put it in a chapter by itself, but it's on HPB and the ethics of theosophy. And he took a bunch of quotes from the letters that HPB wrote to the American Convention the last few years of her life. And those quotes were really spoke to me. And one of the things that she says in there is she talks about altruism. She talks about it in the sense of, and so I looked the definition up, but and the definition was based on animals. It says it's that action that animals will do that is against, that will actually put them in harm's way. So if we take that into ourself, it's those actions that aren't pleasant to us, that aren't comfortable to us. True altruism, I believe, are those actions that we do that go against that comfort feeling or that go against that oh, this is going to make me happy. It's really stuff that is going to make our life harder, is going to make us, work more or cause, a little disruption within our day. And she speaks that altruism leads to brotherhood, and brotherhood leads to oneness or to that unity. And that was one of those woohoo. The angels descended and sang to me at that moment because my body feels separation. I feel separate. I look at you and I don't look anything like you. My natural motion is towards separation. I really have to work hard to rein it in. I live in a house by myself. I forgot I have a husband, but I live in a house on my own. And so everything seems separate to me. But so when they talk about unity, or when I sit down in my meditation and try to get to unity, that seems so far from me. And even brotherhood seems far. I mean, now that I've lived in a community for long enough, that feels more natural in my body. But what I feel like I have absolute power in is altruism. I have the power to help when it's not comfortable for me. I have the power to do service when it doesn't benefit me. And by doing that, I am naturally building the I keep saying container, or the space, creating the space from which brotherhood can come on its own. And then I think of it like a critical mass once there's a critical mass of brotherhood, and this is what I think the nucleus of, is it nucleus of universal brotherhood? This is where I think that comes from. Once that critical mass is there and we have that nucleus, then there's an exponential growth, an exponential power that can lead us to unity. So in my life, for me to get to unity on my own, and then each of us, I think that this is what Blavatsky talks about when she talks about unity, not a unifying as we're all these little soldiers. And once we all come together, we can build unity by each adding our own, but from a point where if we're working together, we can all get to this step together as one. And from that oneness, we then can experience unity.
A little bit different from sovereignty. You know, people are really into that individual mentality, which we do have to start out with that individual mentality because we have to know a little bit of about who we are. But then we need to join hands. I think that, you know, there's a saying that, you know, together we can do so much more than we could ever alone. So what you're doing is that you're framing her definition of altruism as a path to oneness and unity. That's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank
so
you.
I never thought of it like that. You know, I'm thinking of it as beneficent acts, and you're saying that it's even bigger than that. It's that you really put yourself out there, and that in itself is a growth possibility and potential, is to put ourselves out there when it is not comfortable. I know how that feels. It's really kind of scary to do that.
Right. Or even when it just is creating more work for me in my day. You know, we're all so busy. Everyone keeps saying, oh, you're busy. Oh, you're busy. I don't know any people that aren't busy, you know. So especially if you're a theosophist, I always joke when I came here, and saw the people that were living here, I really got depressed because I thought, oh, you know, I've done my work, I've raised my kids, I'm going to retire and have all kinds of time. Well, even living in a community or living without it, like the work that you're doing, there is no retirement. There is just working until you die, you know, when you're working in service for humanity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I put everything down and I put aside, and then I pick up, you know, I put down 2 and pick up 3 projects. So that's what's always going. Well, where you are now, do you go to a lodge meeting?
Yeah, we have lodge meetings on Tuesday night here, and I was president of the lodge a year. I was president of lodge during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so we moved everything to Zoom. Unfortunately, right now, this year I have a class on Tuesday nights that I'm taking to help me become a better publisher. And so I'm not able to attend the lodge, but yes, I have since we moved here and when we were in Wheaton, when I was in
And when you were in Wheaton, you went to the lodge meetings as well?
Yeah.
Do you think that those lodge meetings were helpful to you in terms of your theosophical quest?
Yes, I think anytime we come together to study with the intent of being in service for humanity, I think no matter if we're studying a basic text or an advanced text, I know I have always gotten something out of it. There's one little thing that's clarified or something that's expanded on. You know, like I said, this aha moment that I had about altruism came because I was studying to give a class. So I really think that I don't think anytime we come together or anytime we study is wasted, even if it feels like, oh, I've done this a million times. I don't think there's any wasted space. If we come to it with the right, if I just show up and just sit there and not pay attention or stay on my phone, yeah, then it's wasted time. But if we come together, if I do my prep work ahead of time, go to the lodge and study in the lodge, then that's very useful. I think that there are, and not necessarily any particular lodge, I'm noticing this. I started taking some workshops and a job I had when I first moved out here to become to create space for better listening. I think we could be better listeners in any space or any situation that we're in. And so there's a system to create the awareness within ourselves that we can become better listeners. And yeah, that's one thing that I've learned, that I've seen when we come together. If you notice in the Theosophical Society, there's really a lot of emphasis on working together, whether we're studying, whether we're doing service, whether we're at a convention, things like that. So there's a purpose. There's an underlying purposeful energy that's there that can be created, that I think we can tap into the voices of the ancestors, or the voices of that oneness, that if we come each with our ideas, if we can let go of those ideas and really look deeply into the matter, I think we can come out with a oneness, this oneness, or the voice of the many is what, yeah, what I'm looking for, what I'm trying to do. And we have a word for it in Theosophy. It's our meditative inquiry. So if we can do this meditative inquiry, if we can put a couple systems in place or tweak things a little better, come with a different intention, and really work on speaking from a meditative place, then I think there's that exponential growth that we can gather. And I really think that that's what Leadbeater was talking about when he talks about these, and Annie Besant talks about these thought forms, or what HPB was trying to create when she made the inner group, from there. That it's not just for an individual advancement or individual enlightenment, but it's really to work together to get that energy so that all can grow at the same time.
Yes, well, they're really different ways to look at that, because we do live in a country in which individualism is so popular,
right?
And I believe it has its place. It's just, I think we kind of get stuck in that developmental stage and we don't move past it.
Right,
Well, I'm going to move into just asking you, do you have any favorite authors or books in Theosophy that you recommend or that's really touched your life?
Rohit Mehta. I really like his books. I read them when I was going through some turmoil. So his book Seek Out the Way pops into my head. But his writings were something that he's a practical writer. And if for me, if it's not practical, I need the theory. I need the theory to understand it, to give me the motivation to work towards that. But if it's not practical, if I can't do it in my everyday, or attempt to do it in my everyday life, it really doesn't work for me. And there's one book, I don't have it here, but there's one book by a theosophist, an older theosophist from England, that's called A Diary of a Child of Sorrow. And that's the book I read that really helped me to understand those two books, Rohit Mehta's book, Seek Out the Way, and this Elias Gurwitz, his book, A Diary of a Child of Sorrow, really helped me understand what the path was, why we're on this, path. My daughter the other day said, Mom, why can't I just do what I want to do? Why do I have to do, this or do that? And I said, Emily, you're causing me to have a very difficult conversation with you, but you just need to bow your head at certain times and plow through doing the right thing, or the best right thing that you can do right in front of you. And so those books really help me.
Help you with that. Well, I don't think anyone can listen to this interview without noticing that you definitely are introspective and that you want the practical to be interspersed with that visionary aspect of life.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
I just wondered, oh, go on. I was going to say, do you have anything else to add to this conversation?
Yeah, just real quick, that practical part, I think, is there in all of Theosophy with all of the readers, but it's for me that would be my skill. I can read something and I can say, oh, I can see where this goes, or I can understand it, or it'll trickle down and say, oh yeah, I can use that in there. But I think that's a skill that can be fostered, a skill that can be practiced, that if we read something, and when I give talks, I like to ask a takeaway. What was your takeaway from today? Because I believe we always have some sort of takeaway, even if it was, this is stupid and I don't understand it. That's a takeaway still. But there is a skill in finding the practicality in the readings, and it can be fostered if we start looking for it in all the reading that we do, or in all the study that we do. And I mean practicality beyond meditation, you know. Yeah, so that's just
And I think in a lot of the theosophical literature, we do have to hunt that down. And I do appreciate Pablo's writings as well, because he likes to put that practical aspect in it, to rope it, give the intellectual perspective, and then to move it on down into the earth plane
right.
so that we can understand and utilize it. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to say in closing? Any advice, any thoughts?
No. I would say, yeah, I said no. I know I said no.
It's the yes or no, yes.
But I would just say that there's an innateness that we can find, that we should learn to trust. Um, because I feel like I come from a place. I go to meetings, or I go to things, and people talk about these lofty ideas or these lofty experiences that they have, these beautiful experiences that they describe. And I always was like, man, I don't feel any of that, or I don't see any of that, and so I always felt, once again, like I was doing it wrong. But there's so much hiddenness, so much inner work that has to happen before it comes out, that if anybody feels that just to trust the path, that this is a long game. We're in it, that this lifetime is one day in all of our soul's lifetime. That, so if I judge my whole life on one day of this lifetime, it could be terrible, it could be great, or it could be somewhere in between. So to trust that we're okay in the space that we are, and that we'll move forward as we need to.
Well, we are a society that rushes and we want instant results. And in order to be pragmatic and practical as a spiritual person, that approach does not work.
Right. No, that's very well put. Very well put.
Well, thank you so much, Michele, for being with us today. I appreciate it. Take care. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for having me here.